So now that we have the add product to inventory function done, let's go ahead and do the update product to inventory. So we'll go update product. And right now we just have a throw new not implemented exception. So let's go ahead and delete that. And then let's jump back to the add product to inventory. And I'm going to actually use this code as a template for doing the update. So I'm going to copy all of that, jump back to update, and then I'll go ahead and just paste it in here. So as we look through this, we'll see here that we've got a good bit of the setup done. We've got some changes because of our input parameter name has changed. We'll obviously have to change our insert into statement to be an update statement, and then we'll have to adjust our parameters further to actually include the ID of the product we're wanting to update. So let's go ahead and we'll start with product to update. We have no return value, so we don't need this variable. So we'll get rid of that. GetDB command gets our connection object and generates a new command object for us, so then we just deal with the command. The command text that we'll use will be update products, and then we're going to use a series of set statements, and then we're going to do where the ID equals @ID. So the set statements will simply be field name equals parameter. So we're looking at things like name equals @name, and then we use a comma, UPC code equals @UPC code, and this code hopefully should look familiar to you from your database class. If you've taken DB1, then at least the construct of an update statement should be familiar. If you've taken DB2, then you should definitely know about input parameters and how those work. If not, then you're getting some good upfront experience in how they can be used within your SQL code. Alright, so we're going through and doing our updates. The last thing that we want to update is the field that we didn't use before, which is last modified. And we'll update that to last modified. Okay, so we've got our update statement in place now. So now let's go through and make the adjustments here. So this is product to update, so we can quickly update those, just double clicking and pasting to replace. And then I'll need this line for 2 more parameters. So the first parameter we'll need will be ID, the second one will be last updated, or last modified. And we'll change this to be the ID, and this we will update to be today's date, so we'll do datetime.now. So that'll take care of that. I'm actually going to capture this into a local variable, so datetime, and we'll call this last modified. And what this will do for us is that we'll store that in a variable locally, and then we'll pass that value in. And then after we do the update, we can go ahead and then just update our model product update with that date time update, so that way things stay in sync without us having to worry about pulling the data back out of the database and then updating the model again. Alright, so we do not need the new object, so that will delete that, and then we're going to change this from an execute scalar to an execute non-query. And since we're not getting any data back from our query statement, we don't need to get anything back, so we'll just execute a non-query, which basically means that execute this command and don't query any data out. Alright, so that will execute our update statement using our input parameter values, and then we can close our connection. And then the last step here is we do not need to get inventory. And let's just go ahead and say product to update dot last modified equals last modified. And then we don't need a return because we're not returning anything. And that will do it for our update. So just to kind of recap real fast, we've got our SQL command, and we're getting all of that from this function call that we created in the last step, or the last part of our video lecture. And in there we're creating a SQL connection, and then we get the connection string out of the configuration manager, which is the connection string settings in our app.config file. We named it DB inventory utility, and then we create a command from that connection, and then we return that command. And then after that, then we take the cmd.command text, which is the query that we're running, and that's an update statement. So we have update products, set name equal to the name parameter, UPC to UPC parameter description, unit price last modified, where the ID equals the ID parameter. And we actually define those parameters. So we do cmd.parameters add with value. So we add the name, the UPC code, the description, unit price, ID, and last modified. This last modified comes from this line here on 178, which is pulling the current date time from our computer. And then from there we go through and we open our database connection. We execute our query, and then we close our connection. And then the last step is to take the product to update, and we update that last modified date with the value from the variable in line 178. So that is updating our product. So let's go ahead and finish this out by doing the delete for this video. So we'll basically just copy the same command code again. Instead of doing the update, this time we will do delete. And the delete and the update are actually going to be very similar. It's just going to be a matter of updating the query and then removing a bunch of parameters. So product to delete, and then instead of doing an update, we'll say delete from products, where the ID equals the product ID. And then the same idea here, we only need the ID. So we'll get rid of the rest of those parameters and then replace this with product to delete. And we'll update the query. We don't need that, and we don't need that because hopefully after we've run our query, everything will be deleted. So that'll be our delete for the product. Simple enough. So there we go. We've now implemented the update and the delete for our DB inventory utility.